Avast, ye scurvy dogs! Hath ye ever wished to play a pirate in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons? Well, I say, put down that battle master / swashbuckler multi-class character sheet, for I have the homebrew class for ye, and a character voice that I have no intention of continuing. Hello, my name is Ethan Cat, and this is the Mariner, a martial archetype for supportive sailors and scurvy dogs. Yarr. The Mariner is a subclass inspired by everything piratical, sailorish, and boat-esque. Whether you're a royal sailor, a loathsome pirate, or just a hard-working ship laborer who's trying to get from point A to point B and make ends meet, this is the subclass for those hard-working individuals who take to the sea for adventure, glory, gold, or maybe just a regular paycheck. Unlike most subclasses or archetypes in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, the Mariner is not a world-saving hero or a realm-conquering titan. These sailors have a wealth of worldly experience, whether that be sailing on mighty vessels, working on dingy docks, or being behind the bar of a tavern and being forced to work in hospitality for God knows how long an elf can be alive for. These sailors have built up might and muscle through their years of hard work, that can even rival the might of a sorcerer who got all their powers from nothing in most cases. So without further ado, let's take a deep dive on the specific subclass features the Mariners have to play with. Starting at level 3, Mariners get 2 small quality of life features, which are Born Swimmer and Seafarer's Swagger. Born Swimmer grants the Mariner a swimming and climbing speed equal to their walking speed. In addition, when they're out of breath or choking, or more thematically drowning, the number of rounds they can survive before dropping to 0 hit points equals twice their Constitution modifier. For reference, the standard amount of time a creature can be out of breath or choking for equals just their Constitution modifier. Born Swimmer is more of a flavorful feature which isn't really going to come into play 100% of the time. Also, I may be the only Dungeons & Dragons player who knows the rules for choking and suffocating off by heart, so I had to put it in here somewhere. So long as the Mariner is not wielding a shield, the Seafarer's Swagger ability allows them to increase their AC by half of their Charisma modifier, rounded up. Charisma is not often a stat used by most fighters. Primarily, a fighter will use either their strength or their dex, depending on what their build is, mixed with constitution to give them a few more hit points to get knocked around with. Seafarer's Swagger, along with some of the other features afforded by the Mariner subclass, gives these characters an ability to move into a more charismatic headspace. Unlike spellcasters like sorcerers or warlocks, an increase to charisma isn't really going to do much for their damage output. I figured that giving the sailors at least something to use their charisma on might entice them to go for a more charisma-oriented build. Because, I mean, why should the warlock players have to lead every social interaction? This sailor guy's been working on trade ships his entire fucking life. He has to have some mechanical benefit that helps him make intimidation rolls. The primary ability that the Mariner receives at level 3 is Captain's Call. Starting at 3rd level, as a bonus action on your turn, you can select one allied creature within 60 feet who can hear you. The creature then receives one of the following effects of your choice. Inspiring Rally. The creature gains temporary hit points equal to your Charisma modifier. These temporary hit points last until the start of your next turn. Crew Command. The creature can add your Charisma modifier on the next ability check they perform until the start of your next turn. Haul it. The creature can use their reaction to move up to half their movement speed immediately. Outside of second wind or 2-weapon fighting, fighters don't really have a lot of bonus actions to play with. Captain's Call offers Mariners an opportunity to use their bonus action to provide a little bit of support to their allies. Support that isn't just beating the shit out of anyone who's trying to kill them. We can just assume that they're already doing that. It also offers these fighters another avenue to justify a few more points being put into their charisma. Higher charisma means more temporary hit points, a slightly higher bonus to ability checks. If it's not already obvious, the entire philosophy of this subclass is literally just the phrase part of the ship, part of the crew. Because even if you are a seafaring fighter, you know, you're all in this adventuring party together. You're all hauling the metaphorical ropes, which I guess in this case would be, I don't know, killing liches or something. Next up, at 7th level, the Mariner gets the feature Sea Legs. Starting at 7th level, when you are subjected to an effect that would move you, knock you prone, or both, you can use your reaction to be neither moved nor knocked prone. While this prevents the Mariner from being moved against their will, it will also prevent them from making attacks of opportunity. or using any other reactionary skills they might have. These guys have spent enough time on ships to not be knocked over by fucking anything. Also at 7th level, the Mariner receives the feature Wind in Your Sails, which isn't really satisfying to say if you're not reading it in a pirate voice. Whenever you use your second wind feature, the amount of hit points you regain increases by your charisma modifier. In addition, you can use your second wind feature twice before needing to take a rest. Taking a short rest restores one use of your second wind feature, and taking a long rest restores all uses. By being able to use their second wind feature twice, they can stay up in the fight a little bit longer, even if it prevents them from using their captain's call to help out their allies. Next up at level 10, the Mariner receives the Shape Up Yscurvy Dog feature. You see? I did the pirate voice that time and it was way more fun to say. As a bonus action, choose one creature that's currently affected by a spell or effect that requires them to make a saving throw during their turn, or as an action on their turn. This creature can use their reaction to attempt the saving throw immediately. You can also use this feature to allow a creature to use their reaction to attempt to escape from being grappled. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, regaining all of the uses at the end of a long rest. If you've been playing D&D long enough, you know that falling victim to a spell that, completely takes over your turn is a nightmare to deal with. Especially at higher levels, where it's like, oh, it's been 30 minutes of this combat and now it's my turn? I can't do anything because I'm held personed. Shape Up Yscurvy Dog gives your allies a chance to have these effects mitigated, so when it comes around to their turn, they actually get to play the game. Also at level 10, you get Hit the Deck. Starting at 10th level, if you're reduced to 0 hit points by a weapon or spell attack, you can use your reaction to immediately use your second wind feature, if you haven't already expended all uses of the feature. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. There is nothing worse when playing a fighter than getting the absolute shit kicked out of you and then kicking yourself for not using your second wind feature in the previous turn. Hit the Deck at least offers you an opportunity to use this feature as you're knocked down to 0, keeping you in the fight for a little bit longer. Although in order to use it, of course, you still need to have a second wind feature, so I don't know, I guess when you choose to use that is up to you and God. At level 15, you get an improvement to the Wind in Your Sails feature, which allows you to use your second wind feature 3 times before needing to take a rest. The same resting rules still apply to the improved feature. A short rest will regain 1 use, while a long rest will regain all uses. Honestly, I just wanted to use the phrase Wind in Your Sails, just as much as possible in this document. Finally, at level 18, you get Shipwright's Resilience. This feature grants you resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical weapons, along with resistances to 2 other damage types of your choice. You become immune to disease and the poisoned condition, and the length of time you can go without food or sleep before gaining a point of exhaustion is doubled. By the time you hit level 18 in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, everything around you is just fucking loosey-goosey. Like, people are turning into angels, devils fall from the fucking sky, but you're a sailor, goddammit. You've fallen from the topmast so many times that your calluses actively prevent you from taking bludgeoning damage. You have consumed so much brine-soaked grog that you are now immune to disease. If somebody tries to poison you, it will be no more effective than all of the times you've poisoned yourself eating ship rations that are at least a week out of date. And you can also be resistant to fire if you want, I guess. It's really up to you. The Mariner's skill set doesn't grant them an overwhelming abundance of martial prowess, but the life of a sailor teaches you one important thing, and that is a good ship is made up of a lot of crew, and the better you treat that crew, the better everything goes for everyone. Because remember, you're on the fucking ocean. The 20 other burly shipworkers that you're with are literally the only thing keeping you from drowning, starving, or both. One of the things I thought most about when building the Mariner was I wanted them to be objective-focused adventurers. Most other fighters, like the Battle Master or the Champion, are skilled warriors who've honed their abilities purely for the sake of combat. Mariners, on the other hand, are sailors, they're dock workers, they're people who try to get a job done and do it well enough so that they can get paid. And not only that, they are people who are forced to work as part of a team. As such, a lot of the abilities that I've created for the Mariner subclass revolving around supporting your allies in some way that isn't just beating the shit out of anyone who's trying to kill you. Captain's Call is all about inspiring your teammates to go the extra mile and get their job done. It can grant them a bonus to ability checks, but not attack rolls, meaning it's more designed to help them achieve an objective rather than kill a dude. Outside of that, it can grant some temporary hit points to keep them in the fight a little bit longer, or allow them to move so they can get into position to do the job they need to do. All while screaming seafaring and piratey things like, "Put your back into it, lad! Hoist the mast, ye scurvy dogs!" If you're seeing that my pirate voice is indistinguishable from my dwarf voice, that's one of the 3 voices I can do as a Dungeon Master. At the end of the day, Dungeons & Dragons is a team game. Of course, you're playing it with 2 to 4 of your closest friends, or guys you met on Craigslist. The fighter is so often a class that focuses primarily on themselves. They are, for the most part, martial warriors who can hit stuff really good. And that isn't to say that isn't helpful. When you're being attacked by 10 berserkers, it definitely helps if there's only 9 of them by the time it comes to your turn, but I wanted to build a fighter subclass that had a little bit more of those supportive tactics in mind. And so was born the Mariner, a salty sailor who works on ships and does their best to stop their crew from killing each other. If you like the sound of this subclass, you can download its PDF for free right now over on my itch.io at artofthecat.itch.io. Over there, you can also find a whole bunch of other subclasses I've made for pretty much any situation you'd want, as long as it's the 7 very specific situations that I've catered for. Naturally. And while you're at it, if you're a fan of tabletop games and nerd shit like that, why don't you drop me a follow on YouTube? The follow account really helps me out in these early days, and let's face it, YouTube won't recommend my videos to you unless they're any good anyway, so you got nothing to lose. So anyway, let me know what you think of this subclass in the comments below, and get out there on the high seas, have rip-roaring adventures, sail the ocean blue, and yeah.